So friends, the portion of Shoftim begins with the words, Shoftim v'shotrim titan lecha b'chol she'arecha. You should have judges and police by all your gates. Hasidic masters tell us this is not just the mitzvah to have policemen by all the cities. I'm a local chaplain for our local police department, and I tell the police, I said, do you know that it's a mitzvah to have police? And I quote this verse. It's a biblical mitzvah. Deuteronomy chapter so-and-so. Thou shalt have cops. They don't believe me, but it's right in the book. But the Hasidic masters tell us that this also has personal relevance to each of us as individuals, that we should put guards at our city. This is a little city, as explained in detail in Tanya, and there's two voices battling for that city, etc. And it's a struggle, and that's a journey of most of us to try to balance out that city and put it in control of the divine soul rather than the animal soul, etc. Says the Torah, let me give you a good piece of advice of how to control that city. Put policemen at the gates. You know what the gates are? The eyes and the ears. Watch out what comes into your city. If you allow all the trash in, and how you're going to deal with trying to live a meaningful, holy life that's anxiety-free and that's moral and ethical and wonderful and joyous after you watched all the bad news or immorality or violence or etc. Good luck. It's like bringing all the criminals into your house and now avoid the problems. It doesn't work. Why should I bring the terrorists into my home and try to protect myself? I lock the door. Torah is giving us a simple example, a simple piece of advice. Put the policeman at the gates. Choose what you see and what you hear. Just like people are not going to eat garbage. Today, thankfully, we're in a world where people are very mindful of what they eat. You know, when the Whole Foods chain started opening up, they opened up one nearby, and I noticed that it was fascinating. It has everything that you have in your local supermarket, but it has it as an upgrade. It has it in the healthy version. And then I noticed at the checkout counter, which in your local supermarket has all the trashy magazines and all the gossip and everything else, at their checkout counters, there was different magazines. It was all about health and about gardening and all healthy stuff. And I was quite impressed. I said, you know what? People who come here, they want to eat better. They want to live better. Only that was short-lived. Within a couple of weeks or months, those magazine racks look just like the one at my local supermarket. And I realized that while society appreciates the idea of healthy food, when I take in you are what you eat, we have a long way to go for us to realize and appreciate the critical importance of healthy information. And we're still ready to take in the trash. You know, I took my kids to the dentist, and there was a big group of people in the waiting room. And it was full. It was right before school, so everybody was doing their last-minute cleanings or whatever it was. Maybe there was 10 people in the waiting room. One of these large, dental offices for kids. And I figured we're going to be sitting there for a while. On the wall, there was a giant television screen. This is like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was, trash stuff. 6, 7 o'clock, it's unbelievable what they showed. Trash stuff with, relationships and all kinds. It's all over the giant screen. Nothing terrible, but certainly not good. And my kids don't really watch television. We pick and choose where they're watching videos that are meaningful or National Geographics. And when they see a television screen, they're like, wow, this is like a big treat. And they're like glued. They're like looking. And the room is full of people, and I have to step out because this is going to take, I realize we're going to be waiting for a half hour before we even get seen. And I had a few phone calls to make. So I didn't want to make the phone calls. It would be nice to have a phone call in this full waiting room. So I'm going to step outside. I said to my kids, I'm going to walk outside for a little while to make my phone calls. And you guys sit here and watch this trash. I didn't say it loud, but I didn't whisper it either. And as I said that, like every adult in the room looked at me like they were shocked that somebody said the truth. It was almost like, in the Emperor's New Clothes. They had, but man, somebody has the guts to say it's 5:30, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and what they're showing on a regular television, it's trash. And they all looked at me like a little bit in shock, and then they like nodded. Every adult in that waiting room, like we're with you, you're right. And that's what the Torah is telling us today. There's no reason for me to take in trash. There's no reason for me to overload on news, which makes its living by telling you every bad thing that ever happened anywhere in the world. I mean, the human mind has to process that. It's not a mitzvah to know everything immediately. And let's put guards at the door and let's decide. Let's take back our city, right? I grew up in the era, post Crown Heights riots, when we had a strong mayor that stepped in, Giuliani, took back the city. Torah says you have a city. Put policemen at the gates. Take back the city. It's still going to be a struggle. We're breathing human beings, and there's still a struggle of doing the right thing and avoiding anxiety and negativity and promiscuity, you name it. That's just the reality of being human. But let's do the first step to set up guards at the door and not just open it up to anyone who wants to come in, all the trash and all the negativity. I close with this story. The great Kalina Rebbe was trying to teach his students the power of good thought, of controlling your thoughts. It should be positive thoughts. It should be meaningful thoughts. Now, thoughts are a very hard thing to control because thoughts never stop. They keep moving. So you can't really stop your thoughts. You have to replace them with other thoughts. But he was trying to teach them, and one of his students was bothered. How can you control thoughts? You control what you do. You can almost control what you say some of the time. But to control my thinking, it's like fluid. So he was bothered by it, and it was the middle of the night on a Thursday night when, and he knew his Rebbe's not sleeping. So he trekked over, maybe it's 12 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. He sees the light on of the Rebbe's study, so he knocks on the door. And he figures he's going to ask the Rebbe to enlighten him. How do you do this? And the Holy Kalina Rebbe was, of course, studying Torah all night long. And the man knocks on the door. Let's assume it was a chilly night. The story is told that it was a cold night with snow outside, in fact. He didn't answer the door. And the man knocks again. He doesn't answer. This goes on for like an hour or two. And the good wife says to her husband, the Rebbe, says, one of your students is at the door. He says, ignore it. So she says, okay. She knows her husband is a holy man and he's a loving person and etc. He must have some kind of a purpose. And the man stands out the door. I don't know how many, a couple of hours. Maybe he's bundled up with his coat and everything else in the freezing cold, waiting outside, knocking every once in a while, every now and again. And the Rebbitzins standing there, and the husband is just not letting him in. And finally, at the crack of dawn, after the guy waited for a long time, the Rebbe opens the door. She says, oh, welcome. And he looks at the Rebbe like curious, like, hello? Like, hello, who are we fooling? You know that I've been knocking for the last couple of hours. Like, Rebbe, you couldn't let me in? And the Rebbe looked at him and he said, I want to teach you that I'm in charge of my domain. No one gets in there unless I let him in. And that was the answer to his question. How do you control thoughts? How do you control information? How do you control that your emotions shouldn't run ragged? First and foremost, control your domain. Don't let everything come in. You don't have to see and hear every nonsense and every gossip and every trash. Keep it good, keep it holy, keep it real, keep it wholesome. And then we move forward. And we live the life that Hashem has for us with joy and positivity. Shabbat Shalom.